Hello there. My name is Amos. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon from wherever you're watching from. Uh, this is Footballers Connect Live. Today I'll be joined by Abdelrahman Kurdieh. He's a football agent, and then he lives in Dubai. Recently, we've received quite a number of messages from footballers who got messages from agents in Dubai. Some guys who claim to be agents, and then they are in Dubai. You know, these guys go ahead to forge websites. They create websites, and then they forge documents. They send it to Nigerians. Thanks, guys, for joining. So we want to use this opportunity to speak with Abdul. Abdul lives in Dubai. He's an American citizen, but he resides in Dubai. He's also a football agent. So we're going to be learning quite a few things from Abdul this evening. Yeah, so if you're in Nigeria, it is about 6 minutes to 5 p.m. Yeah. So if you are in Dubai, I think it's almost 8 p.m. right now. And then if you're in the United States, it should be around 11:10 or thereabout. Yeah, so we'll be learning a few things today. Just a second, please. All right. I think Abdul is here already. Abdul, yeah. I'm gonna send you an invite straight up. Okay, Uche. Thanks, guys, for joining. Olamilekon, thank you. Abdul Sultan, thank you. Hey, Abdul, how's it going? Hello, Abdul. Are you
Hey,
there?
Amos. I'm good, thanks. How
Yeah,
are you?
I'm very well. I'm very
Yeah,
well.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. I can hear you loud and clear. I can hear you loud and clear. So, how
Perfect.
is it going today in Dubai? Tell us, what's it like with the coronavirus thing? How is it in Dubai? How is it like?
Yeah, it's all right. We had a complete lockdown a couple of weeks ago where you couldn't really leave your house except if you needed to go to the grocery store, to the pharmacy, or to the hospital. You had to apply for a permit.
Mm.
So that period was a little bit challenging because you're basically confined to four walls. And it got quite boring. However,
Mm.
they've recently lifted that ban, so now the quarantine is only in the evening to the early morning, so 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. So and you're
Mm.
able to go around now without requiring any permits. So yeah,
Okay.
and it's Ramadan time now, so Muslims are fasting. So during the day, there's no food.
Mm.
So I just broke my fast actually about 45 minutes ago, an hour ago.
Okay.
So yeah.
Are you
It's going all
fasting?
right.
Okay, you're fasting as well, right?
Unfortunately, the economy,
Are you there, Abdul? I
uh,
mean, you're fasting, right? You're fasting as well.
yes, correct. Yes, I am.
Oh,
That's right.
interesting. So, in Nigeria, like in some states, like in Lagos, I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with Lagos. In Lagos, there is movement now. The lockdown has been eased, so people are moving from one point to another,
Okay.
and then there is lockdown, say from 8 p.m. From in Lagos. But where I am right now in Port Harcourt, there is no movement. There's total lockdown in the entire city of Port Harcourt. So nobody goes anywhere. Like we're all inside, we're all stuck. You can't even
Okay.
get anything. You can't even get
So,
groceries.
okay. Really?
Yeah,
So, how are people supposed to get food for themselves? Or did they give like a period before locking everything down and they said stock up on food? And is that what they
exactly,
did? Yeah? Okay.
exactly. That's what
Is
they
it
did.
is it
Exactly.
Is it because there's a lot of cases in PH, or I mean, why is PH like under complete lockdown, but then Lagos is fine because Lagos is 16 million or 20 million people, and PH is I don't know, maybe a couple of million, but so it's not doesn't make a lot of sense, but I'm sure there's a reason.
Yeah, there has to be a reason. I mean, Lagos already has quite a number of cases, and then in Port Harcourt, it's not as many as Lagos, but I think what the government is trying to do is just to curb the spread, just to ensure that it doesn't spread further. That's what the government is trying to do. I mean, let's go straight to football, Abdul. Let's go straight to football. So tell us about yourself.
Sure.
I know you are an agent. How long have you been an agent? What do you do? Tell us. Where are you from? Get to introduce yourself to us.
Right, sure. So I'll start from the very beginning. I'm American, originally Palestinian. So I was born and raised in the U.S., but my family is originally Palestinian. I played football from when I was a young kid, in high school and also at the college level when I was in the U.S. For 1 year. And then my story brings me to Dubai as a student, an exchange student at the American University of Dubai. And I was doing that as part of my studies, and I also wanted to connect to my let's say, background in a way, my Middle Eastern roots. And so I came here to study. I graduated, and then I ended up getting a job here. And I continued to play football, but at a recreational, let's say at a recreational level with friends, like pickup football, five-a-side, or in the park. And then I ended up having a knee injury. I tore my ACL, and I wasn't able to play for that 9-month period of recovery. And so at that point, I was like, well, what can I do to keep myself connected to the game? So then I thought about starting a team. And there was a tournament at that time that I wanted to play in. I wanted to play in before I got injured. But when I got the injury, then I wasn't able to obviously play. So I was like, all right, then I'll make a team, and I'll be the coach, and I'll take them to that. That I was holding were African players. So that was my first introduction to African players. So I ended up making a team. We played in the tournament. We didn't do so well. But then I loved the coaching aspect. I really loved the coaching aspect. So then what I did after that was I continued the team. At that time, there was another coach that was coaching with me. So we did it, let's say, together. And we entered into there was an amateur league that was being organized separately by a businessman. It was not affiliated with the football association in the UAE, but it was a pretty decent level. So we ended up getting a slot to play there in the 4th division. So at that point, we assembled a really, really good team. And then me and the coach, we had a difference of opinion, and then he went his way, I went my way. I kept the team with me, and we continued in the league. And I had then I started to befriend the players, understand their stories, and some of them were really good, and I was really shocked. Like, what are you doing here in Dubai? I mean, what's your story? Why did you end up here? So I started getting a lot of the scam stories of, like, I was promised this, I was promised that, and I had to pay this and pay that. And in the end, it was all a bunch of hot air. So that was my story about starting the team. In the team, there was one player, really, really good player, Nigerian striker, young boy. And this kid was scoring like hat tricks, braces every game. His name is Victor. And so I was like, I want to really help this kid. He wasn't one of the, let's say, he wasn't one of the players who was a victim of scam. He had come looking for a job, but he wanted to continue playing football. So his story was a little bit different, but it is, let's say, the story that got me into the agent side of things. So he was really good. He was scoring hat tricks, braces every single game, was helping us back-to-back promotions in the amateur league. So I was like, I need to help this kid. Like, he really deserves a shot to go pro. So I kept trying to find opportunities for him, and eventually I was able to connect with a a scout from Bahrain.
Mm.
And he was in Dubai for business, his own personal business, and he was like, I'm going to come to see your team, and I want to see the players that you have, and if there's any good players, we'll try to give them a trial back in Bahrain. So I was like, man, that's amazing, and I had in mind, of course, the striker. So he came to watch the game, and unfortunately that day, Victor had a little bit of a knock on his ankle. I believe it was his ankle. So he didn't really shine as much as he normally did. He played well. I mean, you could tell that the kid had something: pace, power, clinical, finishing, everything that you desire in a striker. So, but the guy was like, you told me this and that, and I had made kind of a video clip for him from the amateur league. So, you could see his skills. So the guy wasn't really sold on it. So myself and my friend, we really pushed him, and we're like, no, man, you really need to give him a shot. Like, we know what we're talking about. He could really do it. So he ended up giving him the opportunity. He went to trial in Bahrain with another player from the team, and they were both signed to contract. So I wasn't officially, let's say, an agent at that point. But I stood in and I helped negotiate the contract for him and the other player, and from there it started. So the idea at that point was, after hearing the stories of the scamming and the players that were unfortunately part of this, let's say, negative situation, my idea was, well, what can I do to try to stop this in its tracks? So what I thought was, okay, let's go to the source. Let's see if I can find a good partner there, and try to set up a project with him, and see if we can catch these players, really talented players, before they fall victims to scam, and try to do some educational outreach, etc. And so that's how my journey started into agency. So 2017 January, I came down to Lagos. I was actually introduced to my partner Jafet Zubeiru by the player Victor. He had known him through I think at that time Jafet was doing some sports journalism, and he had found Victor's story. So he connected me to him, and it's been amazing ever since, to be honest. I think 10 trips to Nigeria and counting.
In fact, I've seen you in Nigeria once, and then I wondered, like, what's this guy doing in Nigeria? And then the fact that you can write Nigeria, no wahala, and all those things. Where did you learn all those things from?
yeah. The pigeon, Naso, my guy, Naso. Well, me personally, I always like learning languages. I really love learning languages. So whenever I go somewhere, or whenever I befriend someone, I try to learn something in their language.
Something new.
So I've picked up some words of Igbo. I've picked up some words of Hausa. I've picked up some, so that I always feel like when you want to connect to someone, if you're able to speak to them in their own language, you're able to kind of make that connection a little bit better. So yeah, that's it really, and I love the culture. I eat ofada every time I come, and igusi and semu, all that stuff. I'm all over it.
Interesting. So the truth is, you've done really well. Nice to also connect to Nigeria, to also make sure that you do your own part of the deal. I mean, people, what do you think about you've had good interactions with Nigerian players? What do you think about Nigerian players, naturally?
In general, I've always had this feeling that Nigeria should be one of the powerhouses in world football, to be honest. I mean, they should be up there with Brazil. They should be up there with Italy, Germany, France. They really should be. Unfortunately, after my experiences in Nigeria, and seeing like football on the ground there and the administrative side of things, it's a long shot to make it, but the players have a lot of talent. They work very hard. They really work very hard. They're gifted. There's a lot of technical gifts within the players. And many of them, most of them are coachable. So if you tell them like, okay, look, this is wrong, try to do this that way, they're willing to listen and they're willing to improve. But I think the hard work ethic is something that really kind of sets them apart. I mean, most of West Africa, from my experience, have very, very similar traits. But Nigerians, I guess, they give it that extra level to really make it, especially if they feel like they can make that step, they're willing to put in the hard work.
Interesting. I mean, I'll just do a quick shout out to everybody that has joined us. I see some people from Bulgaria. Senboye is a scout. He's a top scout.
Can you hear me, Amos?
Yes, I can hear you clearly. I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Abdul? I can hear you loud and clear, Abdul. Can you hear me? Guys, can you hear me, guys? Hello, Abdul, are you there? Yes, you're there, right, Abdul? All right, okay. So, I mean, I've got people from America, people from Germany that are following this chat right now. Abdul, tell us. People say there is no football in Dubai. Is that true? They don't play. People often say there is no football in Dubai. Is that true?
Professional football, yes, there is football in Dubai. Now, when you talk about football, it depends on how you look at it. So in Europe, for example, football there is run as a business. So the clubs are all about the balance sheet. They're all about budgets. They're all about money, what comes in. I mean, what goes out must always come in. So they look at always running a sound professional club. In the UAE is a little bit of a different story. It's quite comparable to Nigeria, actually, in the sense that the clubs are owned by sheikhs. And the sheikhs are the ones who bankroll the team. So at the beginning of the season, they will write out a check for however much they feel like writing out, and that's the budget for the club, right? And in Nigeria, it's kind of similar with the government-owned clubs. So in that way, it's a bit similar. However, in the UAE, they don't run their clubs as a business. So they're not looking to sell players. They're not looking to develop youngsters. You know, that side of the let's say of the football business is not there for them. So they're more interested to bring in players that have experience from outside and mix them with their local talent pool and create a team. So that's how it works here. So yes, there is professional football. For a while, there was only two divisions. The top, they call it the Arabian Gulf League, and then right under that, they have the first division. However, last season, they've added a second division, which now can be privately owned clubs. So you have to go through a certain type of, let's say, registration process and all kinds of stuff. But there are now privately owned clubs as part of the football association. So that's I believe that's a really good step, because that will increase the competitiveness of the league, and it'll give more opportunities to players to shine and rise up through the ranks.
Interesting. I mean, the reason why I asked this question is that I know a lot of people who have left Nigeria to play football in Dubai, and they end up not playing football. And a lot of people still go from Nigeria to Dubai, right? We've seen a lot of people come up with invitations. I got an invitation to come to Dubai, to come and join one club. You see, well-documented paper, invitations. But in the end, you just realize that these guys get there and then they go work in the construction industry. Have you met a number of them?
Yeah. A lot of the players that had joined my club when I had it, that was their story. Is they would be connected to some guy in Nigeria. I mean, to be honest, this issue is not Nigeria alone. It's all over West Africa. I haven't seen it much in East Africa, maybe a few cases, but in West Africa, it's prevalent. It's everywhere. So basically, how it works is the players are approached. Normally, the players are approached by someone in Nigeria. That person will tell them, look, you know, I have this opportunity for you in UAE, so-and-so club. They're ready to take you on trial. You have to pay so-and-so amount of money, which will cover a flight ticket and visa and accommodation and all kinds of stuff. They sell them, you know, like a whole bill of goods, which is completely false. And the players, you know, the big issue is lack of education, unfortunately, which I think your platform is trying to address, which I really, you know, thank you very much for help, you know, for having me on your platform and being able to explain. But education is the biggest issue. Players are not really aware that, you know, the process of going for trial is not that a player has to pay. You know, if me as an agent, for example, if I believe in a player's ability and I believe that they will pass the trial, I would be the one to pay for them, because I know if they pass the trial, I stand to gain a lot of money financially, you know. But then that's how the scam is done, and players, you know, because they you know, they face certain difficulties at home, you know, whether it's poverty or they, you know, schooling or whatever the case may be, and they feel like they have the talent to succeed. So they put together, you know, some money. You know, I've heard cases of families selling plots of land, selling their business, taking out bank loans, you know, doing really, you know, really extreme things to give this opportunity to the player, only for them to arrive and find that that it's a hoax. So what the agent does, going back to that, is basically they doctor all of the documents. You know, they doctor all of the documents. They get the logo. They get the logo from Google. And most of the time it's bogus, and players don't know to do the due diligence. You know, they believe, oh wow, this is an opportunity, you know, and someone is approaching me, not that I had to run after that person, you know. So they're like, wow, this is, you know, this is heaven, this is it, I've made it. So they don't bother to look into it to see if it's real or not, if it's going to put them into an issue, and they end up falling for the scam. And once they pay that money, you know, there's no going back after that. You know, you'll never get a refund. And once you get on this side, you know, these agents, they turn off their phones. They don't reply to their emails. They can never be found again. You know, and so the players are oftentimes left stranded in the airport. You know, I've had cases where players were stranded in the airport, and, you know, I had to call one of my players in the team to say, hey man, can you go pick this guy up and try to help him sort himself out for a couple of days and see what we can do, you know. So yeah, it's really a case of people just trying to capitalize on their own, you know, on their own countrymen for their own gain, which I think, in my opinion, is pure evil, to be honest. And yeah, a lot of heartbreaking stories, bro.
Abdul, do you think these clubs in Dubai, do you think they are aware of these things that are happening? Because I've seen a lot of documents recently. Yesterday, to be precise, I shared a document on our page. These guys doctored documents with logos and everything. They created a website. They opened an email. They even called one of the emails legal or lawyer at whatever.com. You know, are these clubs aware that these guys are perpetrating evil with their club names?
I think some of the clubs might be aware of it, but for them, you know, it doesn't bother them one way or the other. You know, there's nothing that they can really do because they don't know who's doing it. Maybe they put out a press release and say, you know, be careful of scam in our name. We found these documents, etc. But you know, the majority of the clubs, I haven't seen any type of let's say campaign against scamming or against this kind of thing. Unfortunately, it's mostly individuals like myself, like you, that are trying to raise awareness and you know, and try to stop this situation in its tracks. The problem is that there are so many players, right, trying to make it in football, and there's so many agents that are trying to scam people that unfortunately it will be very hard to eradicate it. But as long as, you know, if we can save one person, you know, that's the most important thing. So that's for me, you know, what I'm trying to do with my activities and educating people on this issue.
I mean, someone is asking. Boyega is asking. I told you Boyega is a scout in Bulgaria, and then he has a very good network. He says, "Hi, Abdul. What is the scouting department like in Dubai clubs? Organized or not?"
Can you re-ask that question? It was cutting out a bit, Amos.
Yeah, so he says, Boyega says, what is the scouting department like in Dubai clubs? Is it organized or not? The scouting departments in clubs in Dubai, are they organized or not? He wants to know. Are you there, Abdul?
To be honest, yeah, like official, like his job was officially a scout, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, an English guy who worked for a Nasser, and he was like an official scout. And then after that, I think they hired an Italian guy. So to be honest, there's no proper scouting system in the clubs here. What they do is they rely, if they employ a sporting director, they rely on the sporting director's network. They rely on the coach who they hire's network. And then they heavily rely on agents who are connected and can get players in for them. So a proper scouting department like you would see in a professional European club, no. Maybe they employ, the big clubs here maybe employ 1 or 2 scouts. But in terms of like a professional scouting department, no, it's non-existent.
Interesting. So, I mean, if let's take for instance, for young players from Nigeria, is what's usually the criteria for recruitment for these clubs? What are they looking for? You know, the clubs are not looking to sell players abroad. They're not looking to sell players in Europe. What exactly do they want in players? What kind of players are they looking for? What's the criteria to play in a club in Dubai?
I was not able to hear that. Could you ask it again,
Okay,
maybe?
So my question is, I mean, what's the criteria for a player maybe in Nigeria to play in Dubai? What are the clubs looking for? What exactly do the clubs look for in a player in Dubai?
Right. So I'll explain to you how it works here in terms of how clubs look for players. So like I had spoken earlier in the chat, they're not run as let's say professional clubs in Europe are run. So when it comes to player development, when it comes to bringing in youth players, they don't really look at bringing in youth players from Africa or from anywhere for that matter, with an intention of bringing them through to the first team. So what they So a player with a good CV, a good background, and that's the type of player that they look for the first team. For the youth teams, for let's say the under 21s, under 19s, they would be interested to sign, let's say, top youth players or good youth players for those teams, but never with the intention of bringing them through to the first team, at least for the top teams in Dubai. For the teams, let's say, not in the top division, the Arabian Pro League, they would be more open to bringing in players who don't have a very big career or CV to.
Interesting. Oh, come on.
First division.
Go ahead.
In the first division, there are more opportunities for players to play in the first team of first division clubs.
So Dr. Cottrell is in the US, right? So he's asking, do clubs have open trials in Dubai? Do clubs usually have open trials in Dubai? This question is from Dr. Cottrell in the US.
The concept of the concept of open trials is not really prevalent in the Middle East in general, or even in the Gulf region. So there's no specific day where a club will say, okay, this Wednesday after let's say 6 p.m. we're going to have an open trial where all players from anywhere can just come and trial. They do that for their local players, so that they can filter out, let's say, new local players for their academies and stuff like that, definitely. But for let's say, foreign players, there isn't a designated trial day. You need to know someone in the club who can get you an opportunity to go in for a trial. And it's not a trial day. It's an actual, like, proper trial that you would be going for. So, yeah, the concept of trial day here is not prevalent. What does happen a lot, actually, is that amateur teams, let's say similar to the one that I had running, would play against, like, the under 21s of a pro club, which I was able to do for my team a couple of times. And if you're lucky and you play really well, or if they play your team a couple of times and they see a specific player that they like, they'll then take that player and maybe bring him in for a proper trial with the club, and then maybe sign him. So it's not really a trial day, but it's an opportunity, like it's a trial opportunity by playing a friendly game with the under 21s or maybe the first teams of some of the first division teams in the UAE.
So Michael, I think we've been able to answer your question, Dr. Cottrell. We've been able to answer your question. So Billing Concept is also, he said he's watching from Germany. Thank you, Billings Concept, for joining us. So OJB is asking, OJB Babati says is in France, he's a journalist in France. So he wants to know, like, what's the difference between the Chinese league and the UAE league? Are there similarities at all? Are there similarities?
Yes, there are similarities. In China, first of all, they have several different leagues. They don't have just one. So they have one, let's say, professional league, and then they have a couple of other leagues that are run independently of the professional league. So there are more opportunities to play or to find opportunities in China. But the similarities are that over there they also don't really run as a professional business. Like, they don't develop players and sell them and try to make let's say a business out of it. So they also buy players that have big CVs. I mean, you've seen players go over to the Chinese league. A couple were lucky enough to get back into the European league. But normally, when you leave to go to the Middle East or to go to China, you know, it's very hard to find your way back to Europe. But yeah, there are similarities between the two leagues.
Interesting. So, Abdul, tell us, what do you think should be the ideal relationship between footballers, agents? How should the relationship be? What should it be like? Give us an idea. You can share with us your experience, how you deal with your players, how you handle your players. What should be the relationship between footballers and agents? How should it be?
To be honest, I believe it's a relationship that should be built on respect and trust and honesty and loyalty. Honestly, that's how it should be. Many relationships are not built on that, and then you see a lot of funny business, especially when it comes to youth players in Africa. So youth players in Africa, again, because of lack of education, they tend to sign with 3 or 4 or 5 different agents and never tell the other agent or anybody that, hey, you know, I've been approached, I've done this. So when it comes time for a deal, you know, it's quite famous. It's happened to Iheanacho. It's happened to a lot of players. You know, when it comes time for a deal, clubs are like, who do I deal with? You know, 6 different people come and say that they represent the player. So right there, you know, you have a major problem because you know, there's no honesty, there's no trust, there's no loyalty from the players' perspective. That normally happens with really talented players. They get the luxury, and of course in Africa, you know, there's a lot of money involved and things like that. So you know, I can, to a certain degree, I can understand, you know, why a player and the family would want to do something like that. However, it's not the right decision for a player's career, because those types of moves can really derail a very promising player's career. So from my perspective, the way that I deal with my players that I represent is I make sure that I deal with them in a very transparent manner. Everything is out on the table. I tell them exactly what I can and cannot do. And if they feel comfortable with what I can and cannot do, then we enter into a relationship with me representing them and taking it forward. But what I never try to do, and what agents should never try to do, is to sell false promises to a player. You know, if you're able to do something for them, great. Tell them that and do it for them. But if you're not able to do something for them, you know, leave them for the next person, because ultimately, you know, careers are destroyed by agents who sell you. You know, there's, on the one hand, there's the scammers, but on the other hand, there's also agents who will tell you, yeah, I can do this and I can do that and I can get you this club and that club, and then it never happens. And then all of a sudden the player's like 20, 21, 22 years old, and at that point, if you're not already outside the shores of Africa, you, unfortunately, because of the way the system is, you have no chance. You have no chance to make it. So yeah, it's really just, you know, being human. That's all I can say. Just be a genuine human being, you know, and look at the player because on the back of it, you know, especially if the player is really talented and has a promising career, you're set to make tons of money, and it's going to change everyone's life involved. Right? Exactly. So why would you want to, you know, derail someone's career because, you know, you have the opportunity to sell them a bill of lies?
Interesting. Very interesting. So I'm going to ask this question. So do you think the UAE is a good starting point for young players? Do you think the UAE is a good starting point?
It depends, Amos. It really depends. It depends on the level of the player. That's what I'll say. So if the player is really talented and can carve a career out in Europe, my advice is do not come to the UAE. You know, try to make it to Europe. If you don't have that opportunity, then definitely, and the UAE is your only opportunity, and you have a genuine opportunity in the UAE, then definitely look at that. But if you're a super talented player and you can get to Europe, that's where your destination could be, because that's the pinnacle of football. And you know, from there, you never know, well, you know, where your career can go. For other players that are, let's say, you know, mediocre, medium, average players that are very good, that can play outside of the shores of Nigeria, but might not be able to make it in Europe or might not have that opportunity, then definitely, you know, they can come and try to find a genuine opportunity. And most likely it'll be through the first division, because no pro league club will sign a player that has no European experience. It's just not going to happen. You'd have to be really, really lucky with some of the rules as well to be in your favor. Like if you're a resident for a couple of years and you fall into the muqim and you know, fall into some technical rules. But if you come straight from Africa to the UAE, your only shot would be in the first division, and now the newly opened second division, which, by the way, for anyone watching and thinking about the second division, most of the teams in the second division do not pay salaries. Some of them provide accommodation and food for the players, but most of them do not pay salaries, just because they're either privately funded and the owner doesn't have enough money to manage the club and also manage salaries. So yeah, that's just a little information for you guys.
Thank you so much, Abdul. Guys, so we've been speaking with Abdul Rahman. So he's an American based in Dubai. He's an intermediary, so he understands how it works in Dubai. So Abdul, so Dr. Cottrell is asking this question from America, right? So he says, how much can, let us whet our appetite with money, right? Let us a little relax. So how much can a player make in Dubai? If I pack my bag from Nigeria today and say I want to go and play in Dubai, what's the pulse like for me? How much can I make in Dubai?
Well, if you're coming to Dubai and you've never been to Europe before and you don't have a CV in Europe, you know, you can make between and you pass your trial and you have a genuine connection and you have a good agent, you can make between let's say $3,000 to $7,000. That's the range of the first division teams in Dubai, in the UAE. So yeah, it depends on the club. Some clubs are not as financially stable, not stable, but as financially buoyant as other clubs. So their salaries will be a bit less. Other clubs have a bit more money to play with, so they're able to offer more money in terms of salary and apartments and stuff like that. But generally, that's the range. And mostly teams look for really good attacking players, wingers, strikers, number 10, and really good midfielders. Rarely do they look for defenders. Very rarely. They prefer to have, you know, the flair, because Africa is known for flair, right? So they prefer to have the flair players that can really wow the crowds and, you know, dribble JJ Okocha style through 5 defenders and score. That's what they look for mostly. So yeah.
I mean, like $7,000 is not bad. That's around 2.7 million or 2.5 million. I mean, if I leave Nigeria and then go earn 2.7 million naira in Dubai, it's not bad.
No, absolutely. For Africa, comparing it to Africa, that's amazing. That's life changing for the player, for the village, probably for everyone involved. So definitely, you know, if there's a genuine opportunity, you know, and the player can verify and do their due diligence, and they feel like it's real, definitely try to take that opportunity, because it is life changing. It's just hard to verify those those opportunities because of the prevalence of scamming.
I mean, you've just said that these clubs often look for players who are very skillful, attackers, wingers, midfielders who are very skillful. So Does that goes to, because Ahmed.Nagma agents Ahmed is asking that what about the new approach of UAE getting young talents from Brazil, Argentina, and some African talents? Right. Does that goes to show that they are more interested in players from that area, Brazil, Argentina, and all?
Yeah, very, very good point, actually. In general, the how can we say, the atmosphere here is that they love Brazilian players, they love the South American players, the Argentinians, because first of all, some of them have made a big name for themselves in the league here, like Caio, who plays for, I think, Al Ain now. He was previously with Al Wasl. So there are a lot of players that have made a name for themselves from those countries, and of course, Brazilians are known for their flair. So they prefer definitely South American players. And another thing about the league here and football in Dubai is the clubs have a trusted circle of agents. So there's probably in the UAE that the clubs turn to when they're looking for players. So let's say at the top division level, they have 5 or 6 agents that they look for. In the first division, there are a lot more agents that are around, but in the top division, they have 5 or 6, and it's a closed circle. Any player normally comes through that pathway, and that's it. There's no room for you at the table, unfortunately. So, but in the first division, you have a better chance to connect to the clubs, because those clubs are typically much smaller. They don't have the network, they don't have the reach. So as a new agent or as an agent, you can typically build a relationship with some of those clubs and find your path. They're open to giving opportunities to African players that are, let's say, between the ages of 18, 19, 20. The thing is that after that, you'll find it very difficult to find a first team opportunity unless from under 21 to first team for foreign players in Dubai.
In Dubai. Okay, so Abdul, there's this coach in the UK, Bobo Risse, that's his name. So he's with us now. He coached one of the NNL. He's the coach of one of the NNL teams in Nigeria. He says, please ask him a question in regards to the club called Diba Al Isin Sports Club. Are their trial adverts genuine? I know a lot of players that have asked about them. I don't know if you heard me, Abdul. Are you there, Abdul? I think the network is a bit crackly. Yes. So can you hear me now, Abdul? Can you hear me now?
Yes, much better now.
Yes. So someone is asking, Bobo Risse, he said, please ask him a question in regards to the club called Diba Al Isin Sports Club. Are their trial adverts genuine? I know a lot of players that have asked about them. So he's asking if their trial adverts are genuine. Al Isin. Diba Al Isin. Did you hear me, Abdul?
Can you hear me, Emma?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you, Abdul. I think the VPN is lagging a bit on Abdul's end, but I mean, Abdul, can you hear me? Abdul, can you hear me? Okay.
We're having some technical difficulties.
Are you with me? Can you hear me, Abdul? Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Abdul? But guys, can you guys hear me? I think there's a bit of technical difficulty.
So maybe that'll.
Hold on. I can hear you. I can hear you, Abdul. Okay. Let me. Sorry, guys. Abdul's end is a bit crappy. So let's join Abdul again. So I think the question is a very important question because we see all sorts of adverts online about clubs in Dubai that have. Abdul, are you there? Can you hear me? Hello? Abdul, can you hear me? I think it's lagging at Abdul's end. Whoa. Yeah. So Abdul, can you go through the charts? Okay, you cannot hear anything. Oh, okay. 1 second. I can hear you now, Abdul. Can you hear me? Okay, guys. So sorry about this. We'll try and connect to Abdul again, just so he can continue to take our questions. Abdul. Oof. So Abdul has been able to answer a few of our questions, and then he has been able to clarify what it takes to play in Dubai, how much you can earn. Can you hear me, Abdul? Abdul, can you hear me? Whoa. The network.
It's a little bit better, Amos, but not that much.
Okay. What if you unplug your earphone, your headphone? What if you unplug it and then use the direct audio? Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, so this coach is asking, we've seen quite a number of adverts. We've seen adverts from Diba Al Isin Sports Club. Are these trial adverts genuine?
To my knowledge, no. If it's advertising a trial day or something like that, no, it's not genuine.
I think so.
And also, if in the advert it's asking for a payment of fees or anything to that nature, then definitely it's not genuine.
Exactly. Because there's no trial that would ask you to pay, right, to join a professional club. There is nowhere in the world where you would ask to pay to join a professional club. Never. Right, Abdul?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the thing is, I mean, football has developed a lot over the past, let's say, 15, 20 years. So back, let's say, 15, 20 years ago, clubs would pay most players to come to trial. Some clubs still do that, but now it's very rare. Now what clubs do is to basically take the risk on himself and give themselves the opportunity. So clubs are doing that, and that's a normal process. Now, what happens is that you know, agents, what they want to do is they don't want to pay for it out of their own pocket sometimes. So what they'll do is they'll tell the player, you should pay for it instead. However, that is not a very good practice whatsoever, in my opinion. If you believe in the player that you're representing, and if you believe that he has the talent to succeed, then you as an agent should undertake that you know, that financial burden and explain to the player, okay, you passed the trial, the contract, then you reimburse me whatever I paid with expenses. I'll keep all the receipts and I'll keep everything, and then you just reimburse me that money rather than having the player pay for it. That's you know, that's the way it should be, to be honest.
Interesting. Interesting. So, guys, see, there is nowhere agents should request for payment from a player. If you're going to request for payment from me, then why be my agent if you cannot pay, right?
Yeah, exactly. You know, exactly. That's how it should be. And the business has changed a little bit, like I mentioned. So it's the agent's responsibility to undertake that for the player. So, you know, players shouldn't be paying for themselves to go and try the club. If you're an individual player, you don't have an agent, and somehow you get a connection to a team, and the team tells you, yeah, you know, you can come, but we're not going to pay for anything, you know, then the player can pay. But if it's an agent that's telling you that you need to pay, I would say don't work with that agent, because that's a red flag.
Exactly. So Abdul, I'm going to ask this question, right? So if let's say I'm an agent, and then I have a player who plays in a professional football league, let's say in the Nigerian Professional Football League. If I bring him to Dubai, what division is he going to sign?
That is a difficult question, but I would say he would most likely not sign in the Pro League. He would definitely sign in the first division. Pro League teams, once they make it to the Pro League, like once, let's say, there's a team that promotes from the first division to the Pro League. Once they make it to the Pro League, they normally clean out their entire roster and of foreign players, and then they start to bring in, because now the Sheikh will put in more money because they're now in the Pro League. So now they have more money to play with. So now they can go bring in a European a player with European experience. So even if you're playing in the NPFL, Kano Pillars, or 3SC, or any of these teams, you still don't have a chance in the top league in Dubai.
Interesting. Okay, so Abdul, like, guys, we have like a minute more. This is going to go off because Instagram will take it down, because we've hit 1 hour mark, and then we'll come back again just to wrap up things, right, Abdul? So guys, please stay with us. We will disconnect now because we've hit 1 hour mark, and then we'll come back immediately again. We'll come back immediately, right? Abdul, did you hear that?
Yep, heard you.
Thank you so much. Shubomile Sports, thank you so much for joining us. It's been very interesting. Sephora, thank you. Kelechi Norom, thank you so much, guys. Abdul, so I was about asking, you were talking about the players from like Nigerian league. Why is it that I can't be playing in a Nigerian league, and then I come to Dubai, I can't make the Pro League? Is it that the standard of football in Nigeria?
It's because of yes, and the atmosphere here, and the way that the clubs look at things. You know, they're very much status oriented. They're very much interested in always having the best and the biggest and all of that kind of stuff in let's say the daily lives, and it also translates into onto the football pitch. So they're interested to get a no-name player from Nigeria, even if that player is amazing, you know, and they're not interested in that player. They're interested in a player that's played that's had a history of playing in AC Milan, that's had a history of playing in Real Madrid, that's had a history of playing in the top leagues in Europe. That's just the mentality, is the culture, and that's the way it is. It makes no football sense. Which is part of the reason I don't really focus on the UAE in terms of my agency and what we do. So we focus primarily on Europe and trying to find players opportunities in Europe. However, because I'm based here, I did try to do some deals. So then I became familiar with how things work here, and I don't agree with it. You know, I'm a very passionate person when it comes to football, and I believe that it should be done in the correct way. And I don't believe that the clubs here run it in the correct fashion, to be honest, and how it should be run. So I don't really look to do too many deals here. But I do understand how the framework works and how everything runs.
Interesting. Like, I mean, a lot of players want to go to Dubai. Like, some people call the UAE retirement league. Is it for real? Is the UAE retirement base for real?
Sorry, the part where you said some people call the UAE, I didn't hear that last part. Sorry.
So some people say if you go to the UAE, what they play there in the UAE is retirement league. Is that for real?
All right. So the level in the UAE, you know, to be honest, the level is not high. It's really not high. The top 2 teams, top 3 teams, because they have money and they can get all the best local UAE players and some really good foreign players, they play decent football. But yeah, the level is really not high. I mean, I've gone to some games where I would much rather watch paint dry on the wall than I would watch the players playing on the pitch. Basic football is not understood. Coaches actually, they complain, foreign coaches, I've befriended a couple of them, they complain that the players, the UAE players specifically, they don't listen to any instructions. You have a game plan. You know, once you get on the pitch, everybody just does their own thing. And you can imagine in that environment, if you're trying to play a team sport, when you have 11 different players, or let's say 9 or 8 different players with their own ideas about how they want to win the game, it's never going to work. So it really isn't very appealing football, and so for me, that's another reason why I don't really get involved with doing deals here. The money is great as an agent. The money is great as a player. The money is great, but for me, it's more than just money. It's a passion, and anything that I'm involved with, I want to make sure it's done properly. So, yeah. That's my 2 cents.
There's also this misconception. I don't know if it's a misconception, but there's also this idea that, oh, if you are going to Dubai, oh, it's preferable if you are a Muslim. Is that for real? Is that true?
No, it's not. Dubai is a very international city. There are religions. Probably every religion on the face of the earth. You could probably find someone in Dubai that believes in that religion. So no, it's not true. Of course, it is a Muslim country, and it favors Muslims for sure. However, you can believe in anything that you want to believe in Dubai, and nobody will look at you sideways at all.
Interesting.
As long as you're respectful to everyone else and you don't try to push anything onto anyone, just as Muslims wouldn't push onto people of other faiths, yeah, there's no issue of religion here.
So someone is asking, you've been to Nigeria for quite some time. You have some players in Nigeria that are of Nigerian descent, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So
So
yeah. Go on.
the agency works with a club in Nigeria. It's based in Lagos, Valiant FC. And the reason that we work with that club and specifically with the owner of that club is because the ideas about football and the vision about how football should be played, how football should be, how players should be. The entire vision is very much aligned. So we have a good understanding about how I look at players and how he looks at players. And so what I do is work with the players within that club to try to find them opportunities if they have the talent. So and on a wider scope, let's say of Africa, I've worked previously with players from Ghana. I've also worked. I represent a player from Uganda national team. I have a partner in Tanzania, and I'm trying to work with him to represent some Tanzanian players. I represent a player from Kenya, and I'm always trying to widen my reach around Africa with the vision of giving opportunities to players that deserve it, players that have the talent, and players that I believe can take the next step and make it to Europe.
Okay, so there is another question from someone. I don't know if you're familiar with the Moldovan League. Moldova,
yeah, I'm familiar with it. It's a pretty small league, but yeah, I'm familiar with the league. Yeah.
So he's asking, he says, his question is the Moldovan League top flight, and which league is it at par with? Which league can you compare the Moldova League with?
Comparable to another European league or just any league in general?
Any league in general.
Moldovan league would be comparable. That's a good question. They only have one really good club, and that club constantly plays like European qualifiers, but never gets very deep. So you could say that the Moldovan league is probably on par with Latvia, probably on par with. I'm trying to think of another league that I could compare it to. You know, there's the top tiers, which is like the top 5 leagues. Then under that comes like Belgium, France. You know, some of the, let's say, next lower level leagues, and then under that come let's say the really low level leagues, which is like Latvia, Lithuania, Moldova, Georgia, Azerbaijan, etc. So it's right off the top of my head, it's hard to give it a comparison, but I would say Latvia, Lithuania, comparable. Romania is a step higher than Moldova, even though they're neighbors. Serbia is a better league than Moldova for sure. Croatia also. So yeah, I would say Lithuania, Latvia.
So guys, we've been speaking with Abdul. He's an agent. I mean, he's a football intermediary. He lives in Dubai. He understands the system. For the sake of those guys who are just joining us, so Abdul, I want you to reiterate again. We've seen quite a number of documents emanating from Dubai. Like, I know personally people who have left Nigeria for football in Dubai, right? Just for the sake of the guys who are just joining us. How does it work? How do players in Dubai how do clubs in Dubai invite players? The ideal way. So I want you to give us like the process again, please, Abdul.
So the ideal way that a club would invite a player from Africa is that they would work with an agent that they already know, and they know this agent can bring me players from Africa. So what they would say is, Agent X, I need a player that is a winger that can do this and that, and really good one-on-one, can score, can head, physical, blah blah. So then that agent will go to his network and tell whoever he has in his network, this is the type of player that I'm looking for. And then his network will suggest to him this and that player and maybe send him some videos, etc. And then the agent would go. So clubs don't go directly sending invitations to players. That is very, very rare. I'm yet to hear of a case. I think it's almost non-existent. I'm yet to hear of a case where Dubai, or UAE club sends an invitation to a player in Africa and says, we're expecting you to come for trial. That never happens. It's always through an agent. The problem is that there are scammer agents that know this process, and they act like they have that connection to the club, and then they forge documents to prove, or to try to prove, that they have the connection. And that's where the problem is, because players they're not educated in this process, so they don't know that that's not how it works, and they also don't know to look into the invitation and try to do some due diligence and see if the address of the club is the same as what it is on Google, if the phone number is the same, if the email address is the same. They don't know that they need to do these steps, which could save essentially their life in a way. So that's where the problem lies, is that there are agents in Africa that understand this process and try to take advantage of it to make money for themselves and basically ruin the lives of players.
Part of the lies that I'm glad that you really explained again, and I think the network did good to us this time. So we'll be able to capture this.
Yeah,
part.
It's very clear, man.
And then
thank you, MTN or Airtel or whatever.
And then we'll be able to capture this part and put it on again, right? So the problem is, in the invitations, you will see, feeding, accommodation, transportation, and everything. So someone is asking, Cornerstone Sports NG says, who covers feeding and accommodation of the player? Let's say, for instance, the player
it depends sometimes. Yeah, okay. Let's say it's a genuine opportunity, right? Through a genuine agent, and everything is genuine. It'll depend on the agent's relationship with the club, whether the club will provide accommodation and food during the trial. Some will, some won't. At that point, it becomes, in my opinion, the agent's responsibility to provide the food and the accommodation for the player. It's never the player's responsibility to provide that for himself. Again, like I said before, if an agent believes in a player, it's up to the agent to finance everything, and take the risk, because that's how business is. If you don't take risk, you'll never get the reward.
Very true. Very true. I also see another question. Okay, someone is asking, Abdel, do you work only with players in Africa or worldwide?
So the agency started specifically, we started looking at players from Africa just because we had a strong connection through the team that I had before. So I had a lot of connections to coaches and people and people in Africa. So we looked at that initially. Now we're trying to expand our reach. We have a partner that we work with in Serbia, and he is, he's helping us with trying to find some really good Serbian talent. So now, and in the US, I also have a partner there who's in the process of setting up a club in California. And I'm working with him to try to represent some American players. So now we're expanding our, let's say, our talent pool to outside of Africa. But Africa has always been let's say, the base, and specifically Nigeria, to be honest. So we'll never, as an agency, we'll never abandon Nigeria. We'll never abandon Africa. That's for sure.
Thank you so much, Abdul. So this person is asking, Ahmed is asking again. He says, what about my question about if the chances of a player will increase if they had played in small European league like Andorra and then go to the UAE? So let's say they played in places like Moldova, Andorra, and then is there a chance if they come to the UAE?
Yes, there is a chance, and again, it will come down to the strength of the agent involved, and it will also probably be in the first division, because those are not considered top leagues, and the UAE clubs know obviously which are the top leagues in the world. So I would really struggle to think that a top league team would sign a player from Andorra or from Moldova unless his agent is really good, or the player is like a really superstar player down on his luck, you know, has really good talent, and maybe they'll take a chance. But normally you would have to be playing in the top 6-7 leagues in the world to be able to play in the Pro League, which is the top league here. However, I think I do know of one case. We have one guy in our audience. His name is Modu. He's an agent from Gambia. One of his players is playing here, and I think his experience was man, Modu, can you write in the chat your player's experience? Where was it? Denmark, or was it somewhere else before he came to UAE? He had an interesting profile. He plays in a club named Ajman here. If you could write in the chat, Modu. I can't remember. Maybe he left. But yeah, so there are chances for, let's say, a player from Denmark maybe, or from a league like Belgium that could come and play in the top league. But normally China, okay, Trawali, he played in China, so he had a good profile for himself when he was in China, and he was able to come in and play in. I think he's still playing for Ajman. I watched him on TV a couple of times earlier this season. So yeah, you do have a chance sometimes if you're from a lesser known league or not a very popular league, but your agent has to be pretty good to be able to pull that deal off for you.
Interesting. Okay, so Sammy Babs is asking this question, but I think Abdul has already answered this question before, but I'm going to read it out. So he says, do players from Africa necessarily have to come for trials if clubs in UAE are happy with the player? Do players necessarily have to come for trials if clubs in the UAE are happy with the player?
Yeah, there's never a straight deal from Africa. I've never seen a straight deal from Africa. That's non-existent here, non-existent anywhere in the world. There's never a straight deal for a player coming out of Africa, except, okay, the only exceptions I'll give are players that play in the national teams. If you're a national team player, things are way different for you. You're not considered an average player. Right now, I'm talking about, let's say, the average African player that has a let's say a average profile for himself. National team players, under 17, under 21 national teams, they may get straight deals because scouts can go and watch them in tournaments, and let's say like World Cups or AFCONs or whatever, they can see them live and definitely give a straight deal. That happens rarely, but still does happen. But for the average player, let's say playing for Kanu Pillars or for Aqua United or something, yeah, exactly. You'll never get a straight deal. You'll never get a straight deal. That's just not possible. Clubs want to see the player come. They want to see how, the player's personality is. They want to see how he mixes with the team. There's a lot of processes that go into signing a player and making sure that he fits within the team. In the UAE, not so much in terms of processes, but in Europe, definitely there's a whole host of ways that players are scouted.
I mean, UK Bellows, you want Abdul to name his players? I doubt Abdul would want to do that. Abdul, do you want to mention the names of your players from Nigeria, players you currently represent?
Well, I'm not going to mention names, but Mr. Bello is the father of one of the very promising players that play for Jaffa's team. So I think that's why he wants me to do that. But I'm not going to mention specific names, no. But he is the father of a very promising player. That player has really, he's really developed very well over the past year and a half, 2 years that I've known him. and based on the trajectory of his development, he's primed to be a very, very, very fine player and follow in the footsteps of another player that's playing for Jaffa's team, who I also represent. So yeah, Mr. Bello, keep it up.
Okay, so Abdul, let's take this question, right? What do you know about the Azerbaijan League?
The Azerbaijan League. I'm connected to one of the sporting directors of one of the clubs there, so I know a little bit about the league. It's very similar to the UAE in terms of they only look for players with, at least in the top league, they only look for players with pedigree, with CV, free players. They never have money for transfers. But the specific team that I'm connected to, they have decent money and they're able to pay decent salaries, so sometimes they get some decent players. Other than the team that I know, I don't know much else about that league because I don't really follow it.
Interesting. So there's also another question. It says before I take the one I pinned, I see some very interesting one here. It says, this is from Abdul Malik. It says, how many foreign players does one club take in the UAE? Is there like a quota system or something?
Yes, there is. The quota system is that there is 2 foreign players plus 1 Asian, and now I think it's 1 muqim, which means a player that has been a resident of the country. It could be a foreign player. But he's been a resident for a certain period of time. They give him a certain designation called muqim. So he is considered on the team sheet as a UAE player, as a local player, even if he's a foreigner. So it's 2 plus 1 Asian, plus I believe 1 muqim or 2, to be honest. Because I don't do many deals here, I'm not 100% sure of the rules. But it's definitely 2 plus 1 Asian, and then 1 or 2 muqims.
So Abdul, as we drive towards the end of this interview now, so someone is asking. He says, "I am a Nigerian residing in the UAE. Is there any chance for me to have a straight deal with a club since I reside here, or I still have to go through a trial?"
Yes, you like I said before, there's no straight deal even if you're the resident of the country. You still have to go through a trial. You still have to prove yourself, you know. Clubs don't know who you are. They would never take a chance to give you a straight deal, you know. That's unfortunately not how you know life works in general. So you still have to prove yourself. If you believe that you have the ability and you believe that you're really good and you can make a difference, you know, then try to find that opportunity, and you never know, it could happen, you know. It happened for Victor, and it could happen for you. Yeah.
Interesting. So someone is asking, Gas Kuchi is saying, can we get tips on how African players can get scouted?
Yeah, Gaskuchi, I've known him for a very long time. He's a player from Ghana. We've been connected for a very, very long time. It's a really great question, actually. So I'll talk in general about that, not exactly how the UAE does it, because the UAE doesn't specifically use a scouting system. They're only interested in flair and how good you are and stuff like that. But from a European perspective, scouting is a science. There is a whole load of things that go into scouting, especially scouting African players. Now, the big issue with African players, of course, which is the elephant in the room, is age. So that's always a really big issue with scouting African players. Is it the real age? Is it the football age? You know, if he's 19, if he tells me he's 19, but he's actually 30 years old, right, or 28, something like that, and you're laughing, Amos, but you know, like, this is real stuff, yeah. And I take him and I take him to Europe for a trial, right? And he does amazing because he's a 28-year-old playing with the under-21s and just destroys everybody, right? So he'll have a career for maybe 4 or 5 years, and then his legs will be 35, you know, but he's actually supposed to be 24 in his passport. Right, and then his career just drops off, and you see that, that all across the board. You see that all across. I'm being real, bro. Like this, this is the reason that Nigeria is not a powerhouse, or Ghana is not a powerhouse, or Ivory Coast is not a powerhouse. This is basically the reason. Is because the players misrepresent their age. Now, having said that, I totally understand, you know, the reason that players feel they need to do that. It's because they never get a chance, and maybe if they get that chance, it's already past them, and they just want to take that chance. And I totally understand it, you know, but it's not the right way to do it, unfortunately. You know, it's not the right way to do it. So coming back to the scouting point is real age and football age. That's always a big question mark for clubs. So once they can try to, and there's different ways to identify it. You can look at the teeth, you can look at the skull structure. Like, there's ways to do it. You know, it's a science, like I said. So let's say they identify a player. Let's say they identify a player who let's say 17, and they believe that this player can develop into a really good player. So then they start looking at first of all, what position does he play? And how, what skills does he have to play that position? If he's a striker, is he a clinical striker? Can he head the ball? Is he physical? Is he just, you know, in the box striker? Or can he play outside? Can he dribble one-on-one? You know, all of these technical questions come after they've identified which position he could play and if he suits that position. Then come the intangibles, which is usually the hardest thing to scout, which is mentality, character, loyalty, heart,
attitude,
you know, professionalism, attitude, hard work, ethic, all of that stuff. So then that's the next step. So once they've done all of these, let's say, steps, then they'll evaluate and say, okay, you know, in my club, I need this player. Or even if they have, let's say, a player in that position, if they believe that player is outstanding and he can come in and make a real difference and maybe start for the first team after 1 year being in the reserves, you know, then they'll be like, okay, let's bring him over to wherever and let's trial him. Then the next phase starts. The next phase starts when the player goes to trial. Once you get to Europe, usually for most players, let's say young players, that's the first time, you know, that you've ever been outside of Africa. You know, it's the first time you ever try the Oyimbo food, the pizza, the burgers, you know, the fries, and like all of this stuff. So then the next scouting step is adaptation. How does the player adapt? You know, it's freezing cold in Denmark. It's freezing cold in Norway. It's freezing cold in Sweden.
Russia.
How does a player in Russia? How does the player adapt? You know, how does the player adapt? There's a very interesting story that a close friend of mine, who's a head coach in Finland. He's from Norway, so he was there when what's his name? Obi Mikel. He came there 20 years ago now, maybe, or less than 15 years ago. When he came to Norway, he came to Finland. Sorry, in the beginning for a tournament. First, he went to Finland for an international tournament. I think it was under 19s or under 17s maybe, and he was scouted there by a Norwegian club. And then he came. They invited him back in the freezing cold for a trial. And he was really like cold. His hands were like in his jersey. He wasn't as good as when they had seen him in the tournament. But they still took a chance on him and they signed him. And then that next, like by the time summer came around, he just destroyed the Norwegian league that summer and made his move after that. So yeah, the next step once players get to Europe is to look at you know, how they adapt, how they fit in with the players. Are they shy? Are they confident? You know, do they play? The most important thing is, do they play at the same level that they? Hold on one second. Hold on one second.
Okay, Abdul is going to join us back. Let's just hold on. This is very interesting conversation, I must say. Abdul has been able to expose a lot of things. He has been able to explain how it really works in terms of scouting, in terms of recruitment for the clubs in the UAE, in Dubai. He has also made mention of some other leagues. That is,
I hope that didn't destroy the.
Like the. Yeah, go on, Abdul.
I'm back. Sorry, in the UAE, they've blocked voice calls and video calls and stuff. So I'm operating on a VPN. So the time was running down. So I had to re-up the time. So the point that I was trying to make is, yeah. Then the next step after they check the adaptation is they check the way the player plays at the level that they want to include him in the country that he's trialing at. So if he's, let's say, 17 years old, they'll probably play him in the under-19s, and then they'll see how good he is against the under-19s. If he does really well against them, you know, then the chances of him getting a contract is really high. If he's not able to do as well, then a decision is made by the club whether they offer a contract or not. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's really how the scouting works. There's a lot more intricacies and a lot more details, but in general, that's kind of the process.
So Abdul, just so we begin to wrap up, what's your advice? What's your word for guys who? The reality is everybody is not going to play football. Like everybody is not going to make it to the top level. Okay. What's your advice in terms of combining education and football? How do you think that can work together?
Yeah, I think it's very important, especially at a young age. You know, if you're a 13, 14, 15-year-old player and you're thinking about football as a career, definitely you should not drop you know, school and just pursue football. You know, if you can do both and at least get your high school or I'm not sure the equivalent of high school in Nigeria, but if you can get your, let's say, diploma, secondary diploma, you know, that's really, really, really important, because like you said, you know, football, making it professionally is really, really difficult, especially when you're coming out of Africa. So education should be definitely prioritized. There comes a point where you have to make a decision on whether you're going to do both or not. And you know, and that really comes down to the player, the support system around the player, the family, and also whether at that point you have an opportunity to continue, you know, to possibly continue your career outside of the shores of Nigeria. And I had another point that I was gonna discuss. Yes. So by the age of about 20 years old, if you haven't already made it professionally outside the shores of Nigeria or Africa, your chances are very, very, very small, because at that point you're considered a first team player. Once you reach about 21 years old, most leagues will consider you a first team player, and to come, like we've been saying all through, to come directly from Africa to a first team is very, very difficult. Not impossible, but it becomes even more difficult than trying to get to Europe. So
very true.
Players need to keep that in mind. You know, like you have a window of where you can become, you know, a professional player, and within that window you need to work really, 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 really hard every day. Educate yourself. That's one of the main things that I would say, is that education is really important. learning about how football works, what the system is, all that kind of stuff, so that you're armed with the information, so that if an opportunity comes to you, you can verify whether it's a scam or whether it's genuine, and then you can potentially take it. So
Exactly.
yeah, just work really, really hard as youngsters. Keep pushing yourselves, give
Yeah.
yourselves as many opportunities to play, and
Yeah.
and try to pursue it. And then at some point, if you get to that age of 20, 21, 22, and you don't have an opportunity, then you have to consider other careers at that point.
So on a final note now, Abdul, tell us, what is your word to everybody out there who want to come to Dubai? What is your recommendation for every player that wants to come to Dubai?
My recommendation is that you need to verify the opportunity that is brought to you. That's number one. Verify whether it's a genuine opportunity. And there are many ways to do it. I think through your platform, Footballers Connect, maybe you have a way of trying to help players, look at their documents and tell them this is real, this isn't real, or if people want to approach myself, through you, that's also an opportunity that I can try to help and look at the documents and say, like, this is genuine, this is not genuine. And try to save some players from that thing. But definitely, education is number one. If you get a genuine opportunity, and you don't have to put yourself or your family in potential financial ruin, by making the trip out here, then definitely take that opportunity, because it's all, at the end of the day, we're all passionate about football. That's what brings us together. And if you get that opportunity to have it as a career, it's something that's really amazing. So educate yourself, make sure the opportunity is genuine before committing. And if you have the opportunity, make sure that you're able to sustain yourself, because there's also the chance that you might not succeed in the trial, and you'll have to return back to Nigeria as well. So you want to make sure that you hedge your bets, so to speak.
Whoa, Abdul, before we had this talk, I said we're going to spend 1 hour, and then we're approaching 2 hours now.
Yeah, well, it's an important topic. It's really an important topic, and like I said, if we're able to save one player from falling into this situation of scam or what have you, then we've done our job, and I'm happy to spend 2 hours, explaining what should and shouldn't be done, and how the intricacies of the business work.
Yeah, I mean, it's been amazing, like amazing 1.5 hours or close to 2 hours that we've had with Abdul. So Abdul is with Valiant Sport Management. I mean, guys, everything about UAE football, everything about football in Dubai, we've discussed. So if you want to catch what we've discussed, I'm going to post this video on our story, so you can check it on our timeline. You're going to find it. Please, this video will be available for you to check. Please ensure that you share this video with everybody that wants to play football. Anybody that is thinking of going to Dubai. See, there are opportunities in Dubai. It's not that there are no opportunities, but I mean, there are not, most of these opportunities that surface, most of them are not for real, right? The clubs will not ask you to come and pay money, and then the clubs will not back the agent to collect money from you and all of these things. So we need to understand. So Sam Best Sports Management is asking, do you recommend young players to start from Dubai? He has already answered this question. Dubai might not be the starting point, might not be the best starting point, okay? Because the kind of players they're looking for, you don't just want to go to Dubai and then just, if you're a very top talent, let me just allow you answer the question. Let me allow you answer the question before we go.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that if it depends on the level of the player, like you were saying, Amos. If you're a really top level talent, coming to Dubai and starting your career is not an advisable career move, and the way to develop, to determine whether you're a top level talent, that's up to maybe an agent or a scout to determine. However, if you're a decent level player and you have a genuine opportunity, you might have an opportunity to sign with a first division club in the UAE. That's possible. So top level talents, not advisable to come to the UAE. But let's say the next level under top level talents who might not be able to make it to Europe, but might have a genuine opportunity in the UAE, yes, why not? Come and try. And like I said before, it's a life-changing opportunity for the player, for his family, for the village possibly, and for a lot of people. So definitely try to come if you're in that, let's say, lesser bracket of talent. But top talents should always try to go to Europe, because that's the pinnacle of football. That's where you'll be challenged the most, and that's where you can take your career to the next level. Coming to Dubai, moving around Middle Eastern leagues and stuff like that is not advisable for a top talent.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so Gaskuchi is asking, do we post it on YouTube? Yes, many of our videos, most of our videos are available on YouTube. You can catch them, and this would also be posted on YouTube so that you can go back and rewatch again and again and again and share with your players. Cornerstone is asking, service fee before invitation, good or bad? I mean, that's left to your agency to decide, right?
Bad. No, I mean, an agent should never charge money to a player. That's the thing, is agents should never take money from players. Agents stand to gain money from helping players. So what an agent can do is, if there is some expenses involved with a player coming on trial, the agent undertakes that expense. If the player passes the trial, the player then reimburses the agent for that, plus gives him whatever his fee is for that deal. That's how the proper process should be. But to charge a player, especially coming from Africa, never. That's never the case.
All right, it's been amazing moments with you, Abdul. I think we've really done justice to every of our questions, and then you've been able to answer virtually all the questions that have been asked. So Abdul, somebody has reached out to me privately. They want to connect with you. Somebody has reached out to me privately. They want to connect with you. So I've told him to just hold on, and then we would also know how to take it on from there. Guys, please, if you are not following our page already, please follow us. We will follow back, just to ensure that we keep you updated about whatever we're doing and what is going on out there. We are committed to enlightening footballers. My own calling is to make sure that footballers, if you want to move right? If you want to do anything, do it right. If you want to relate with an agent, relate better. If you want to join a club, join better, right? So just to be sure that people are not scammed, we reduce this to the barest minimum, right? So thank you guys for joining us. Once again, please follow our page, Footballers Connect NG, and then you can check out all our videos. We've got a series of videos this year on scouting, on with Sheyi Olofinjano, on football and education. I mean, lots of resources. Thank you once again, guys. Until I come your way again, thank you so much, Abdul. We've been able to keep you till about 10 p.m.
No problem. It's my pleasure, and I hope that people can take some information away from this live session, and just add some tidbits to their knowledge, and hopefully know that they should look for genuine opportunities before committing themselves to opportunities. And yeah, all the best, everyone. I know it's a difficult road. Pro football, pro sports in general is a very difficult road, but keep at it, and hopefully, God will give you the opportunity that you're seeking.
All right, Abdul, thank you so much for the passing shots. I really like that. I like the way you ended it. Ramadan Kareem, Abdul.
Thank you very much, Amos. I appreciate the time and the platform, and we'll keep in touch, my friend.
Thank you so much, Abdul. We'll talk later.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, audience. I appreciate it. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right, guys. So thank you so much. If you've not been following us, please follow our page, Footballers Connect NG. Please kindly follow our page so that you can get all of this quality information. Please, quality information. Someone is asking, what quality does player need to be able to play? before it goes to the UAE. I mean, you can go over the videos again. I will share this video right now just so that you can watch this video over and over again. Please, I will share the video right now on our timeline. Please ensure to watch it. Thank you so much. Until I come your way next time. Thank you.